Arranged marriages are part of the package. Like when you're a king, you get to decide who your daughters marry and who your sisters marry. Like it's part of the gig. But when Henry VIII tried to put his younger sister Mary Tudor into an undesirable marriage, the shit really hit the fan. To avoid confusion, Henry VIII had a daughter named Mary and a sister named Mary. So this is the sister we're talking about. She was a few years younger than him. And she'd originally been betrothed to someone else. Back then, they took like, this princess will marry this prince, and they matched them together, oftentimes when they were very young children. And so they sort of grew up knowing that's who their spouse was going to be. She'd previously been promised to Charles V. Charles V was from Spain. He was the Archduke of Austria by birth. He was going to inherit the kingdoms of Castile and Aragon. And one day he will go on to become the Holy Roman Emperor. Right now, this part of the story, he's 13 years old. Mary Tudor is 18. They are matched together. Charles thinks he's the luckiest little boy in the world because he's got himself a cougar. He's got this gorgeous older woman from England. It's a great match. Everyone thinks so. Now, Charles is not an attractive little boy, but he's smart. He speaks multiple languages, and he is going to go on to be very, very successful and powerful. So Mary can kind of wrap her brain around this, right? He's younger. She can mold him. She's fine with it. Until her brother gets in a fight with Spain and he decides he's going to cancel this betrothal. And as kind of a FU to Spain, he decides he's going to make a French alliance for his sister. He decides that young Mary Tudor, young, gorgeous, vivacious Mary Tudor, is going to marry King Louis XII, who was 52 at the time. Now, I've said this in previous videos. I know when we think 52, we think 52, right? Like who wouldn't? Yes, please, double dose. But this is the 16th century. So 52 was more like, I'm kidding. That's not really what he looked like. It's just sort of, because this is the description. I'm reading this. This was an actual excerpt from a history book. It says, he was literally stooped over like a little old man. He hobbled when he walked. His gray hair was thin to the point of being stringy. He had wrinkled skin, a beak-shaped nose, and sagging jowls. Sounds like a prize. And see, what Henry didn't know was that his little sister Mary was desperately in love with somebody else. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. Mary Tudor tells her brother, oh, no, I'm not going to France to marry that scary little old man. There's no way. And he's like, the fuck you aren't. I am your king and I command you. And she's like, yeah, but you're my brother. And don't you also understand that I'm going to be miserably unhappy? Like, you cannot do this to me. And he's like, I don't care. I don't care. I am the king and you're going to go to France. And she says, I'll never make it because I'm going to throw myself in the English Channel and take my own life if you make me do this. And he's like, you're serious? And she's like, I'm serious. He's like, well, but I'm still the king and you're supposed to listen to me. And she's like, I'll make you a deal. I will go marry that old goat. But the minute he fucking dies, I get permission to marry whoever I want to. And her brother says, deal. Now, here's the thing. He'd made a deal because obviously he did not know who she was in love with, but also he probably never intended to keep the deal. He just wanted to shut her up and get her on the fucking boat. So he's like, deal, Mary. Well, she held him to his word. She held him to his word. More on that to come. Anyway, she gets on the boat. She heads across the English Channel to France. Now, I will say this. She was quite impressed when she got there, and the streets were lined with citizens like waiting to eagerly greet their beautiful young queen. There was parades and there were trumpets and horses and just this huge entourage escorts her into Paris. And I'm sure young Mary Tudor's like, okay, all right, this isn't a half-bad gig. I can do this for the short term. But she's got her eye on the prize because you know who she really wants to marry? This guy. This is Charles Brandon. He is the childhood friend of Henry VIII. The problem is Charles Brandon is not of noble blood, so they never would have been matched together. But she's basically grown up with them. They've been friends. Henry and Charles have been friends since they were little kids. And he's basically one of Henry's top advisors. He's well respected. He's just not of noble birth. This is who she wants. And girl's got her eye on the prize. Mary Tudor arrives in Paris and she's living the life as a queen and she does exactly what she promised. She does all of her queenly duties. And here's the thing that she does. Sorry, the sun is coming up and there's a weird shadow. Anyway, here's what she does. She takes this old king who she knows is 1 foot in the grave and she's like, honey, come dance with me. Come sport with me. Let's go hunting. And she gets this old king because he does not want to admit that he can't keep up with his young, beautiful bride. So she's got him frolicking and dancing and partying and drinking and eating and she's humping the fucking life out of him. Literally. 3 months later, that king is dead. And Mary Tudor's free to marry whoever she wants to marry. And so even though the king is dead, Mary Tudor is not allowed to like adios back to England, because the French have these laws of succession, and they're like, what if you're pregnant? Like, you cannot go anywhere. So she's invited to stay, is the nice way to say it. And they kind of put her in a palace with nobody but her ladies in waiting, and they kind of lock her away, right? Because if she is pregnant, they certainly don't want her endangering herself in any way. So there's no balls, there's no dinners, there's no big parties, there's nothing exciting about being there. She's just basically alone in a room with a few ladies, waiting to see if she's pregnant. Turns out she's not pregnant, and she's free to leave. So Henry sends a couple of his trusted advisors over to fetch Mary and her ladies and bring them back to England safely. One of the men happens to be Charles Brandon. And so Mary's like, my secret love is here. And all the ladies in waiting are like, what? That's your secret love? And she's like, oh yeah. And so she says to Brandon, my brother made me a promise. He said that if I came and I married this king and the king dies, I can marry whoever I want to. And Brandon's like, say it ain't so. And she's like, it's so. She says, do you want to marry me? Do you want to marry me right now? And Brandon's like, of course. So they elope. Big fucking mistake. So when word gets back to Henry that his little sister has just married his best friend, he loses his shit. And and by the way, he promised her she could marry whoever she wanted to marry, but he didn't realize that was his best friend and somebody who wasn't noble, and that she would just do it. So he tells them, you guys need to stay there, because I don't know what I'm going to do if you come home. Because he's like, I will take Brandon's top portion off of his body if you guys come back here. But another one of Henry's advisors, Cardinal Wolsey, steps in. He negotiates this deal between the group. Mary and Charles have to pay crippling fines. Like, they have to pay so much money in restitution, and they have to sort of be banished from court for a while. Like, they have to just live out in the countryside and do their own thing until Henry finally warms up to the idea that his sister and his best friend are both happy, that they've entered into a marriage against his permission, but they're in love with each other. What a novel concept. And then he invites them back to court. He throws them a formal, real-life royal wedding for the entire countryside to see, and makes it official and welcomes them back into royal life. Gotta hand it to Mary Tudor. In the end, she got exactly what she wanted.